But who better than me?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and this is now volume 4 of the Femme Files. Now, before, I always said that I would make this something whereby anyone up and coming, or maybe someone who just doesn't get enough of shine, but I believe that they are a person that deserves it, would be someone I talk about. But more recently, I've been thinking maybe the likes of, you know, like a Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, Clarissa Shields, you know, like the bigger names in women's boxing, maybe they deserve one as well. So if the time's permitting and it makes sense to do so, then probably those will be coming up in future volumes. But for now, this is based on a fighter that just fought last week, a fighter that's fighting this week, and then another special fighter who's more than likely going to be fighting, I believe, within the next 3 weeks. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so I want to start this one off by paying a little bit of homage to the current IBF and WBO unified Ring Magazine champion of the super featherweight division, the one and only Mikaela Mayer. Now, she just fought last weekend against Jennifer Han, who previous to that had just fought in a fight against Katie Taylor. Now, if we talk about Mikaela Mayer's career thus far, so she started her amateur career, or at least started like competing within the major championships in around, I believe it was 2011. She had a pretty good run. I believe that she was a ABA gold medalist in 2012. She won the gold in the American Golden Gloves Nationals, I believe, in 2011. She was obviously an Olympian at 2016, where she got through to the round of the last 16, but was eventually beaten on decision by, I can't remember the nationality of the lady that beat her. But lo and behold, she then transitioned into a professional boxer in 2017, and she's been signed with Top Rank Boxing ever since. Now, if we look at sort of the style of Mikaela Mayer, it's actually evolved quite a bit over the last couple of years. When she came out, and this is going to sound really weird, but it was almost as like a pressuring pure boxer. Like, she stuck behind the jab quite a bit. You know, she had pretty good movement in the way that she would sort of let the shots off and then, you know, sort of circle around to safety. She was always quite a bit taller than a lot of the other opponents within her weight class, so she did have that as an advantage. She started off, I believe, at 135, and then decided to come down to 130. Now, over the years, her style has actually changed a little bit. She's actually gone to more of a pressuring boxer puncher. So whereas before it was always about kind of staying safe, now she very much will come into the kill box, like behind the jab, behind the straight right. She will be looking to hook to the body, and she's looking to sort of, you know, make it a bit more of a rough and tumble affair in efforts to get knockouts. Now, she's 17-0 with 5 knockouts and 12 wins by decision. Mikaela has often stated that she wants 3-minute rounds for the women because she believes that it would be more beneficial for her style, the way that she sets her stuff up, and ultimately she believes that if it was 3-minute rounds, she'd have a lot more knockouts on the record. And actually, I agree, because she doesn't fight amateurish. She doesn't crowd her work most of the time. She actually does set up a lot of shots, but it's a lot harder to break someone down over 2 minutes when they can almost brace themselves for the majority of that, especially if you don't really catch them good until like a minute 30 into the fight. Now, interesting enough, the way how she got her first title, she was the number 2 and then subsequently earned a spot to the number 1 contender within the WBO. Matchroom Boxing had just acquired Eva Brocniska, and the idea was supposed to be for Terry Harper to fight Eva Brodnicka. They also signed Maiva Hamadouche, and they had signed Hyunmi Choi, and it was going to be a case of the two was going to have quarterfinals and then make their way to a final to crown an undisputed. That was the goal initially. Michaela Mayer had other plans, so she and Bob Arum, crafty as he is, and obviously very, very good with the WBO, decided that nope, not going to do that. So he made Michaela get her mandatory shot against Eva Brodnicka. Matchroom sent her over to Top Rank, whereby Eva was quite soundly beaten by Michaela Mayer, so she picked up the WBO title. Mayer was then supposed to fight Maiva Hamadouche, and Terry Harper was supposed to fight Hyunmi Choi. Now, for one reason or another, the Hamadouche fight was pushed back several times, especially while Hamadouche then went to the Olympics in between a certain cycle. And when Terry Harper was supposed to fight Hyunmi Choi after the Natasha Jonas fight, she subsequently broke her hand. I believe it was in her next fight, I believe. Then she was in rehab, so she had to rehab that, was in training, and she broke it again. Now at this point, Michaela Mayer finally got the fight with Maiva Hamadouche over on Top Rank. Consensusly, a lot of people thought that she would lose that fight. Again, didn't go that way. She actually changed up her style, showed a lot of grit in that fight, fought Maiva in the pocket, beat her to the punch quite a few times, and actually threw a lot more power shots than anyone had seen her throw previously, and was a lot more busy and sort of gutsy than anyone had predicted. Now, so she got that belt, ended up being a unified champ, and she got the Ring magazine because Maiva Hamadouche was considered the number one in the division at the time, and Michaela was, I believe, number 3. So because the number 2 was unavailable, they did sanction it as a Ring magazine championship fight as well. So she got that, and then it was supposed to be again Harper against Choi, and Michaela Mayer was supposed to get the winner of that. It didn't quite work out that way. Now I'll go into why in a moment. But yeah, so talking about Michaela Mayer, so she's, like I said, she's currently 17-0, 5 KOs. She just fought Jennifer Hahn and beat her in a better fashion than Katie Taylor did in her previous fight. She's 31, going to be 32 this year. She says that she's looking for either a unification at her current weight of super feather, or she's looking for the winner of Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano moving forward. I think I've spoken enough about Michaela at present. If anyone actually wants to know any more information sort of outside of her boxing, maybe a bit more of the personal side, you can hit me up in the comments and then I can give you a little extra there. But I'm going to move on as to why her unification with Terry Harper is not going to take place anytime soon, at least. Okay, so a few moments ago, I said there's a reason why Michaela Mayer would not be fighting Terry Harper in the unification. Well, look, in life, we don't always love a party crasher. But when that party crasher then becomes the party, you take it. And in this case, that person is none other than the bomb, Alicia Baumgardner. Now, Alicia sports a record currently of 11-1 with 7 KOs. So immediately that tells you in the game of the women's division, at least, she's got some hands on her. And that's not the only thing. When it comes to boxing, very much she is a boxer puncher first of all. She's got very good lateral movement. Her feet are always within a relative distance from each other. Her balance is very, very sharp. She's got very good reflexes. And all of this is coming off of a ACL knee injury that she suffered back in, I believe it was 2016. She held off on getting surgery on the knee for as long as she could, but ultimately I believe in 2017 she had to get that surgery. She was out of the ring for 19 months, I believe it was. So it was a really sort of tough time for her at that point, but she persevered. She, you know, worked through her rehab. She did what she needed to do in that sense. Afterwards, when she came back in August of 2019, I believe it was, against an opponent called Vanessa Bradford, to try and get the cobwebs off. Subsequent to that fight, actually, let's go back a little bit. Just before that fight, she signed a modeling career. She signed a modeling deal, and her whole thing was, well, if I can't fight right now, I can get some money this way. And she made the most of it, obviously, while still training. Came back to the ring, fought Bradford, won that fight. She was then supposed to be in contention for the Michaela Mayer fight. Now, initially, the fight didn't happen. I think her and the team wanted a bit more time on the knee, just to make sure that everything was still sort of ticking over, and making sure that, you know, that she was fully, fully rested on it, because that was going to be a big fight for her. She didn't want to go into it half cooked. There was a chance for her to fight Michaela Mayer again. Now, this time she accepted the fight. And for some reason, the WBO stated that she would not be allowed to take that fight because her record, or the caliber of opponents that she had fought previously, weren't good enough. That was supposedly their reason. Although after not getting that fight, Erica Farias was appointed as Michaela Mayer's voluntary defense. But Erica Farias had just come off back-to-back losses against another champion. So at that point, eyebrows were raised. Well, how do you now get an opponent who's coming off back-to-back losses being eligible for a title versus someone that's on a 4-fight winning streak at the time, I believe it was, or a 3-fight winning streak? Either way, didn't quite happen. She then was given I'd say a late notice call. I think it was maybe 5 weeks between the Terry Harper fight, when Harper came back off of her broken hand for the second time. All throughout this moment, I mean, they always say you stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Alicia stayed ready. She was in fighting shape. She spoke into existence that she was going to beat Terry Harper, and not only did she beat her in devastating fashion, knocking her out. I believe it was the 4th round or the 5th. It was one of those. So then she took the 2 belts off of Terry Harper and became the WBC and the IBO super featherweight champ. Her next mission is she has a fight this week against Edith Matisse, who wasn't supposed to be the initial opponent. That was supposed to be LM Mekhaled, who was her mandatory, but something happened within that story, and LM decided not to take the fight. So they got Edith Matisse, who is Lucas Matisse's older sister. And once she gets past that fight, she says her next one is to unify with Hyun Mi Choi, and then finally go into the Michaela Mayer fight for Undisputed towards the back end of this year or the start of next year. So ultimately, we will see how that goes. I also believe that she was a Golden Gloves gold medalist in 2014. So I think that was the height of her amateur career. But she's always had very much a very professional style, and you can see that from the fluidity and the power of the punches that she displays. I guess I'll talk about the one loss she had. It's a very significant one. She lost at 140 pounds. Bear in mind she's fighting at 130 right now, but she lost to Christina Lenarda 2, who is the same person that Katie Taylor took the 140-pound title off of when she went up there to sort of gain another belt. Subsequently, Katie Taylor dropped that, and Leonardo 2 won the belt back, and has had to relinquish it at the moment due to pregnancy and giving birth. But that's the only person that you know, that Alicia lost to, and it was simply just she got outworked in one round. It was a very close, very competitive fight. She was the smaller girl coming up, and she still gave Leonardo 2 a great fight. So that being said, ultimately she's got a very high ceiling. She's very marketable, and she could very well be one of the new faces of women's boxing. Only 27. I believe she's from Fremont, Ohio, as a birthplace. So yeah, you know, the grit is real. She speaks it, she believes it, and she achieves it thus far, and we will see how far she goes moving forward. Now, it's enough of that one. I want to speak about another special talent whom is going to be fighting for a title really soon. Okay, last but certainly not least, I want to give a little bit of a praise to a fighter that I actually really enjoy watching. Very fun fighter, very much action-packed, but also technically very skilled. That fighter is Sugar Neek's Shanika Johnson. Now, this fighter, you might not have heard of her. She comes from Australia, or she's an Australian-New Zealand hybrid. She floats between the two. Now with her, she currently competes at super bantamweight, which is 122 pounds. She also she was like one of the sort of reigning prospects in sort of in the women's division at the super bantamweight level, super bantamweight limit. Now she has one loss on her record, and that loss comes from lady I spoke about last time, which was Shotgun Shannon O'Connell, who I christened the prospect killer. The loss, however, it was controversial, it was debatable. It wasn't necessarily like a robbery or anything like that, but it was very much a what do you like type fight. Shannon O'Connell was very much the sort of the busier fighter in the fight. Shanika Johnson was more of the, you know, maybe sort of the more eye-catching work, the punches that you recognize and that will stick in your mind. But it was all about kind of how you preferred the fight in the moment, and the judges decided to go with Shotgun. All good. I believe the record is 10-1, but I'll double check that and I'll put the correct one up on the screen if that is incorrect. Again, like I said, all action. She's another one. She's very good on her feet, got great movement, got great upper body movement. She's she likes to throw good hooks. She's also got a very springy jab. She doesn't just use it as a rangefinder. She almost springs into the jab to set up her secondary shots off the back of it. She likes to fight on the sort of mid-range. Doesn't really go on the inside too often, but she's comfortable on the inside. She's definitely more of a mid-range fighter. Doesn't really stay on the outside either. She's very much believes in her power as a way to keep girls honest and not just trading up for no reason. So yeah, I wanted to sort of put that out there. She's going to be fighting within the next month. I'm going to put the date in the title so you can kind of see, but she's going to be fighting for the vacant IBF super bantamweight title. Now Matchroom have already got a couple of girls up in that level. You know, you've got the likes of Ellie Scotney, and you've also got Ramla Ali, plus they've also got who was it, one of the Latina ladies who's a champion over there. I'll put the name in there as well. Now so with her being in that mix, there could now very much be a chance that Shanika Johnson gets sort of signed to Matchroom, because obviously she will hold one of those belts, more than likely. Plus they're trying to do their big thing in Australia, so it would make sense. But yeah, I just wanted to throw her in there, and yeah, give some due credit to Shanika Johnson, Sugar Neeks. I will leave it there for now. The video's probably run a little longer than I was anticipating, but yeah, thank you very much for watching, and look out for other volumes of the Femme Files coming up shortly, and also couple episodes of the Hardcore Casual plus basis picks sprinkled somewhere within the rest of this week. So yeah, we'll see where we get to. But for now, Femme Files closed.